All right, people, how's it going? So as you can see, I have Israel Adesanya here in the background, and I'm going to be reacting to this video that he just put out, explaining or defending or whatever he's going to say about his performance at UFC 276. And I didn't actually make a video regarding Izzy after 276. Like I talked about Volk, I talked about Max, I talked about Sean O'Malley, I talked about Sean Strickland and Alex Pereira. You could check all those out on my channel after you watch this video, of course. Um, but I didn't really make a video on Izzy because I just kind of felt like, what's really the point? His performance is what it was. It was fine. I mean, I know a lot of people thought it was boring, but I didn't really want to go too in depth because it just wasn't. I didn't feel like talking about it. I thought the other fights were much more interesting to talk about. So I'm gonna react to and see what he has to say here. Uh, we're gonna pause and play, react, see what he says, give my thoughts, breakdowns, etc., etc. And again, I don't really see too much of this style of content in the MMA community space. So I'm going to be one of the people who ushers this in. And I want to be one of the flagship people who does this type of content. So let's get right into it. So here's the chapters here, thankfully. Very nice of you, Izzy. More fights to practice patience. Thoughts on my performance. Here we go. UFC 276 entrance. We'll get into that after. Let's go.
After the entrance, you find yourself across the cage from the dark horse.
And like the video if you
of
end
the
up liking
middleweight
it, of
division.
course. Subscribe for more content similar to
First off,
this.
have you rewatched the fight? And if so, how many times?
I rewatched it 2 days after the fight, and I watched it once. That's all I needed for now. And yeah. Oh no, I was just happy with the performance. I wasn't ecstatic about the performance, but I was happy with it. It wasn't what people were trying to make it out to be.
From your own.
So I remember post fight, Izzy was talking about how it was an off night for him, one of his worst nights, and he still won this and that. And there was people saying like, well, it seems like Izzy's been having a lot of off nights ever since he became champion. Um, it is true that the longer you become champion, the harder every title defense is just gonna get harder and harder. Like just even coming to Valentina's fight, I had talked about how, dude, the longer you're champion, the more tape there is. The higher the chances there will be that you make mistakes, the more that the other person gets to steady you. The older you get, the more beat up your body gets, the more pressure there is on you. All those things, and eventually you're gonna either slow down and someone's gonna catch up to you, or someone's gonna have your number and find out your weakness through studying all the tape. And if you notice about Izzy, one of the things is that there's a lot of tape out on him, and when it comes to when he first came to the UFC and people were still trying to figure out his style, and they still are to some extent, the whole notion behind feinting and the way he does his setups and how he counters people and how he's able to move and use his body, his footwork. He's very, very good at all that. But I think that because people are getting more and more familiar with it, if you notice, even Jared Cannonier said, Izzy even said that he was trying to set certain stuff up, but Jared wasn't taking the bait or wasn't falling for this stuff. And even if you look at how much Robert improved from the first to the second fight, I think that's because of the amount of tape that's going on. I think people are starting to kind of figure out, like, okay, this is kind of what Izzy does. And if I can not bite into the feints, if I can try to check the leg kicks, if I don't fall for his traps, if I don't get too over aggressive, he's probably not going to be able to knock me out or hit me with anything too significant. So I think that's kind of what's happening now in regards to that.
Point of view, how did the fights unfold?
From my own point of view, let me see, from round one to the end, I didn't really take my foot off the gas too much. Only time I wasn't able to was when he held me against the fence. And yeah, I broke away when I needed to, and I kept on fighting. As soon as
I do kind of believe him when he says that he didn't take his foot off the gas too much. And I know people are going to say, wait, but then how was the fight the way that it was? I think that the way Izzy's style is, I think that when he's not taking his foot off the gas, it doesn't look hyper aggressive. Like people will look at the Paulo Costa fight and think, oh, that's what it is, or the first Robert Whittaker fight. But I think that the way that Izzy is, I think that him not taking off the gas doesn't mean that he's super aggressive. Like he could be putting his foot on the gas and be looking for the type of shots he needs, but it might still not look like he's being aggressive. if that makes sense. I think it's just the way his style is.
I broke away. I'd normally just keep on him straight away because I know he's tired from holding me, or like, because I could feel a squeeze. He was just holding me, and I was like,
So you couldn't feel him try to advance the position?
literally at one point he goes, "You don't like wrestling, do you?" And I was like, "Well, take me down then." And I was still hitting him. I was still trying to like hit him from that clinch position, and the underhooks I couldn't get all the time because he literally just locked it down. And I'm like, okay, cool. Eventually, he can't hold this for long. When I feel him weaken, I'll get away. And when he weakened, I got away.
And then here's the other part of the problem, because say what you want about Izzy, but he's obviously a tough guy to beat. He's tough to solve, hard to take down, hard to beat in a pure stand-up fight. I think kind of what he's describing here with Jared, I think Jared kind of just felt like, man, I don't really have any way to win. I'm just going to cut, like when Jared was just holding him on the cage and what Izzy's describing here, I think that's kind of Jared saying like, yo, I can't really take the guy down. Can't really be on the feet. I just want to kind of hold on and I don't need to advance. I just kind of want to get to the fight. Not saying that he gave up, but I think Jared kind of in there realized he's like, yo, my strategy's just not working. And I don't really have any extra gear or any extra backup plan or adjustments I can make to catch up to this.
And then I'd put pressure on him straight away, trying to create openings. Just wasn't able to create the ones that I needed that time, but.
And you see what he says there? I wasn't able to create the ones I needed to. I think that's because people are starting to figure out how to not take Izzy's bait. I think people are starting to figure out how to not fall into certain traps that he sets up.
Yeah, these things happen.
Did you guys have any other like chit chat moments during the fight?
Early on, yeah.
What was he saying?
I think I said
I don't
easy.
care about
I
this.
jabbed him. I was just jabbing him easy, and I was like,
I don't
easy.
care about that.
I think it's the experts. They're the ones like, oh, this happened. He should have done this, and they're saying like, oh, he said this. You know, he said he's gonna knock him out. He said, look, you can go down that whole fight card, and people saying what they're gonna do in the fight, not just myself, other athletes. Shout out to Max Holloway, you know, he said, you know, I'll be surprised if
To be fair, though, when you're the headliner and kind of the champion and the pay-per-view star, and you know you're the one making that declaration, a lot of people are buying because of you. So when you make those declarations, to be fair, people are allowed to hold up and critique it to a higher standard than someone else. If someone on the prelims or the opening fight of the main event or the second fight or the opening fight of the main card or the second fight of the main card, if they say that, can't really hold it to the same extent, because while we are buying for the entire card and the UFC does typically have consistently stacked good cards, the main event is also pretty big decision making in as to how many people end up buying the pay-per-view. For someone like me, yeah, I'll just typically buy them because the quality of the product is so good. I've been watching it for so long. I know what I'm going to get. But let's say you're someone who is kind of a casual, maybe buys a couple a year or once a year. Seeing stuff like what Izzy says, they're the ones who Izzy's the one who's getting the most promotion and the most media clicks and everything. So when they see Izzy saying something, they're going to hold it to a higher standard. So Izzy can say that, oh, Max was saying I'm going to finish it in 3, I'm going to do this, or, you know, Sean O'Malley said I'm going to do this. It is true, and I think that but that co-main was a very solid fight. Alex just happened to control it. And even though Alex didn't test Max's chin or crack it or severely damage him, to be fair, Alex put on an incredibly dominating performance against a caliber of opponent who is, in Max Holloway, who is higher than Jared Cannonier. Max Holloway is a higher quality fighter than Jared Cannonier, which I think everybody would agree with.
this goes more than 3 rounds, because he was that confident in himself. You know, he didn't get the job done. But I'm not, you know, you're not gonna kick a man while he's down. You only kick him when he's up. Yeah.
Sure, true.
No, but I mean, like, you see what I mean? But I'm saying, like, we all believe in what we're gonna do. You know.
Again, he's right. Other people can make predictions and stuff, but as the main event person, people are naturally going to hold you to a higher standard, because there's some people who the main event or the co-main is the deciding factor for them, and what you say can sway them.
not just Max, everyone else. I feel like I'm gonna do this, and I know what I can do, and I know what I could have done to him, and I was trying to do it to him, but it just didn't happen the way I wanted it to. But again, I'm the one getting flack. Like, there was no bit in that fight where I took my foot off the gas in the sense that I'm coasting. I wasn't coasting. I was like, I'm gonna keep touching him, and I'm gonna keep touching him until he falls.
This is what I mean. Like, the way that Izzy fights, it's in the sense like even if he doesn't take his foot off the gas pedal, for him putting his foot on the gas or 50-50, not coasting but not going too hard, is he'll calf kick you and touch you and just touch you and calf kick you, move around. That I can believe that. Now to us it might seem like he's not putting the pressure on, and to a lot of people they might not enjoy that. But it's just the way his style is.
I didn't want to overcommit. If I overcommit, I knew he was going to counter me, or I knew I'd leave myself in a vulnerable position, and that's stupid. But
no, I do not want any of this.
No,
none of that. Sorry, I cannot have any content like that because UC's very particular about other people.
Like, that's secondary. That's just it's just white noise, but still. It's more about me and what I expect from myself and what I know my potential is to do with a certain opponent.
You threw 20.
A lot of you guys don't know what you're looking at. Footwork, big factor. If you want to say I ran away in this fight, you can't. I don't know how you're going to say that. I was right there in his face, hitting him, striking with him. So I don't know, people might try and say, oh, he's this and that. Footwork was one of the main things I took away. Fucking 60% of his shots, his strikes. The other was just like hand control, distance management, and just basics. My jab,
Again, Izzy does this in a way where, like he's describing, his footwork, the basics, the jab, hand control, this and that. That's enough for him to win fights. Might not be appealing, but he's just at that level where he can do that. If he didn't have that long kickboxing career, he wouldn't be able to pull stuff like this off. But because he does, he's able to do it, and he's trained his takedown defense enough to the point where he's just not going to get taken down easily.
Yeah, things like that.
When did the tide turn during the fight that saw Jared being the one on the back foot and you pressuring him later during the fight?
Can't remember, to be honest. I have to watch it again.
I think it was about midway.
Yeah, well, when he started wrestling, I was like, oh, what?
He started getting gassed.
Yeah, I could feel him. Also, at one point, I think before the fourth round, I turned over and I see he's really
What is this? Let's see.
You seem to be in a position point. What do you think that says about your career?
Regarding
where you
GSP
are
Silva
as
and
a
being
champion?
like them. Let's see that.
It's where I want to be. Look at how we speak of them now. But right now I'm in it. People can't see the forest for the trees. This is a thing that happens a lot. People can't see the forest for the trees, so they throw their toys, shake their rattles or whatnot. But go down the line, when all is said and done, and my career is finished, you'll see who was the guy. Like you.
So I was one of those people that critiqued GSP for not being aggressive enough during his career. Like, I remember this was like a long time ago. Like, I remember when I watched not so much the Thiago Alves fight, but I remember I watched the Dan Hardy fight, and then what was after that? There was the Josh Koscheck fight, the Jake Shields fight, there was the Nick Diaz fight, then the Carlos Condit, which had some excitement. Then there was the Hendricks fight where he got pretty beat up. There was definitely fights in there where I remember even myself at that time, I was a lot younger, I was critiquing GSP, but looking back at it now, I do appreciate GSP a lot more. Even though in the moment I did call him a boring fighter, but I appreciate him and hold him up so high now. I wonder if Izzy could be the same exact way for a lot of people. So I try not to let too much of that, the way I felt about GSP, I don't want to make that same mistake again. But I can see where people are still allowed to hold the critiques about him. And my bigger thing is like the way he does his walkouts, like the way he did the Undertaker one and stuff. If you do walkouts like that and then have a performance like that, it's just such it's like the diametrical opposite thing. I don't know if I use that word correct, of what's happening. It's like such a people feel like they're in the twilight zone. It's like this crazy walkout, and then having a win, but to a lot of people's eyes, not as exciting. So I feel like that's actually going to hurt Izzy more. I feel like if he has regular walkouts and then that performance, it wouldn't be as bad. But I feel like his crazy walkouts and then having those performances is actually going to hurt him worse. Because I saw a lot of people were annoyed by that. If you remember when he had the walkout in the first Whitaker fight and then the way he finished him, after that, I was like, yo, this guy's going to be a superstar. Like, I was thinking either close to 1 million or 1 million pay-per-view buys consistently. Because I was like, yo, after this, if he's walking like this with this type of confidence, this crazy theatrics he's putting on, and then that performance he put on against Whitaker where he smoked him, this guy's going to be a superstar. So now I feel like we haven't really trended that way. And, there was obviously a lot of the fights after that. And I think, honestly, that these walkouts are going to kill him more than just the fights itself, because it just makes people feel like they're watching two totally separate things. And people will just get annoyed by that, I feel like.
Eugene said it the best. Oh, yeah, these spectacular knockouts will come. These marvelous finishes will come. All right.
By the way, I do think I'm kind of done with watching because I don't want the video to go on for too long. I do think that as he goes along, he will have, points in his career where he will continue to probably get another couple knockouts somewhere in his career. And I do think that this fight against Alex Pereira will really... I think this is going to be an interesting fight because it's going to be a really interesting stand-up fight. So that's kind of my thoughts and breakdowns on a lot of things that Izzy's talking about here. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more content similar to this. I will catch you later. Peace. Catch you guys later. Peace. Let's try that again.